Okone, toko iu. O toko ria, no toko mana, no toko ihi. Te mapihi mauria, kia mo, kia ita, huye, tāki.
Well, normally we come to like that and we really look forward to it being Wānaka-Upper, which is warm house, and I was sitting in the office at 9:30, got a bit jumping going, get here, and going, I won't even need the jacket, lucky I threw it in, so I really apologise. What's happening, team? What's happening? I don't know, but we love this piece of design and we love coming here, but I apologise for not being as warm. But the agenda for the meeting is reasonably thin today as well, so we won't be sitting through hours and hours. So welcome to members of the public, thank you for making the effort, and lovely to see a number of locals from the Nugget here as well. Staff as well will be hearing from you. A number of you are going to be speaking at the public session, which we will get to very soon. Michelle Morse is our General Manager of Strategy and Policy, our executive leader, so thank you for coming along today for that. And Quentin's here in a councillor capacity, but won't be voting. The meeting is being recorded, just so that everyone is aware of that. There are no apologies, we're all here. I'll just ask for leaves of absence between now and the next meeting. John?
28th of June to the 13th of July.
Yeah, the 13th. Anyone else got leaves of absence? Very good. Then, so there's no apologies, but I will move that John's leave of absence be accepted. Have I seconded for that?
Sure.
Chris, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Very good. I will also move on to any declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any items today, do you think, that we need to be made aware of?
On Kimberley Heights.
Yes. So you'd like to see it, so you'll be setting aside from that? Very good. And so just noting there's conflict of interest with item 1 on the agenda. There are no matters lying on the table, so let's get straight into the public forum. And John, would you like to come up? And John Langley from Guardians of Lake Parwell. John came and spoke with us at the Share With Us session about 10 days or so ago, and welcome back to speak.
Thank you. I'm working on the assumption that you will read the security of supply document that I sent to the chair. So I'm not going to go through that in detail. I'm happy to answer questions about it later. But I just really wanted to say that there is no significant threat to supply, and if there was, it can be addressed by other mechanisms. And so we don't need to compromise our lake any further. I'm very aware that, the Guardians are very aware that what QLDC can do about this is extremely limited. But I have been previously, I think the last meeting, you indicated that a technical response can be made to the referral, but the council has the opportunity to make some statements. That's my understanding. So in respect to that, the Guardians would like to encourage you to do two things by way of statements. And first is QLDC does not need to wait for substantive application to raise its concerns and statements. And there are some self-evident truths. By self-evident, I mean we don't need scientific evidence to demonstrate them. And they are the substantial degradation of the outstanding natural landscape, the dust storms, which will have a significant impact on urban and rural landowners. And in that context, I raised the issue of silica and the dust storm and silicosis, and the mortality of the animal and plant life which inhabit the exposed areas. They're self-evident. We can refine them and talk about quantities, but it's self-evident we have dust storms. We have them now, but they're going to be a lot worse. And they can't be mitigated. So it would be helpful if QLDC could mention a statement. The second thing that QLDC could do in the referral is say, because of the significant extent of these, that the community is impacted. So the Fast Track Approval Act specifies that the panel must invite comments from local authorities alike. But it also leaves open the opportunity, and I quote, the owners of land to which the substantive application relates and the land adjacent to land. And it says, what is regarded as adjacent land will be determined by the power and facts in the context of each substantive application. QLDC can signal now that affected parties will definitely be, if we use dust, the residents of Hawea. And that includes the rural residents and domestic residents. So we would like to encourage you to do those two things. And I'll stop there and leave it open to any questions, especially on those two items, or if you've got any queries about the security supply comments.
Hey, John. Has anyone got anything else about clarified from John on this ongoing issue of the reduction of lake level at Lake Hawea?
Just a comment if I may. So, as I explained on the phone, the practice the council has adopted, the fast track consent, is that our planning team will invite comment from the elected members that the council is to provide, and each of the councillors are entitled to express their opinion through that process. So, yeah, that's, as you identified before, that's part of the role that we're playing there, and you can certainly take those comments on board.
Cody, anything from you from being a resident in Hawea?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people reach out in terms of wanting to be a part of this, and it's been a hard process to navigate what can be the most effective, but I'm definitely taking on board your points, and we'll sort of work to collate a lot of those sentiment through that process that Quinn was mentioning to make sure that we can ensure residents do become effective parties and are heard in this process. So I appreciate you championing that.
Thank you.
Anything from you, Michelle?
No, I just thank you for raising it at the table here. Obviously, QLDC's role is somewhat limited, but there is a regional electricity development plan that will be being consulted on very soon in relation to supply into the district particularly. Interesting to think about it in comparison to that too.
Any other comments or questions for John? Thanks for continuing to make this visible and coming and taking the time to speak with us. It has been digested, and we know that this is an ongoing conversation that's not going to be resolved immediately. So,
Thank you.
thanks, Jill, for being here as well. Meredith Smith, the Cane Road Utility Society Incorporated. Very formal title for your water supply, Meredith.
Basically follows on from the concerns that have been presented by Gary of Lake Hawea. So I represent one of a number of small community volunteer-run bore water schemes that supply drinking water to 600 or so people in Hawea Flat. I also have, there is also another representative from another scheme here with me today. These bores all take their water from the Hawea Flat aquifer, which is supplied by Lake Hawea. There's a 2023 ORC report on Hawea Basin groundwater detailing new knowledge about the geology at the south end of the lake. It identifies a credible risk that if the lake level falls below 337 metres, it will affect the flow of the groundwater from the lake into Hawea Flat aquifer, resulting in dry bores in Hawea Flat. Contact Energy is proposing to drop their low operational limit for the lake level below that threshold to 336 metres, with a further contingency down to 330 metres. That means a risk of dry bores for our community. Needless to say, none of our community wants our drinking water to run dry. QLDC staff have said that this issue is not within their jurisdiction because the Hawea Flat water supplies are private schemes. However, I would like to remind you that under Part 7 of the Local Government Act, the Council has several statutory obligations. 1. The Council must inform itself about the access that each community in its district has to drinking water by undertaking an assessment of drinking water services every 3 years. 2. They must assess the extent to which the community will continue to receive sufficient drinking water and consider any future risks to the community's access. 3. They must assess the consequences of the community losing access to drinking water in the future and outline a plan to provide for the community's ongoing access to drinking water. 4, they must provide opportunities for any person to alert them at any time to concerns about the community's access to drinking water. That's why I'm here today. 5, they must make the assessment reports available to the public on their website and provide Taumarara copies. And 6, they have a duty to ensure communities have access to drinking water if existing suppliers face significant problems. We venture to suggest that a dry bore is a significant problem for a drinking water supply. The fact that QLDC has not been able to provide a single report of any drinking water services assessments on request indicates that they have not complied with any of these obligations. We look forward to seeing an assessment report in the near future and a plan for how QLDC will provide for our continued access to drinking water should our bores run dry. However, what we are asking for today is that QLDC will prevent the possibility of dry bores ever happening by actively speaking out against the contact energy proposal. It's not only in our interest, it's in their interest as well to do that. That's all I have to say.
Well articulated. Thank you. And you've come at this community concern from another angle, which is really, really valid. Have you put, this is the first time you put this to QLDC? Yes. Michelle, would you be able to sort of take this as a council request and and then follow up, and I'll give you Meredith's contact details. So obviously with the community board, Michelle was able to take stuff directly back to the QLDC staff and get a response to that. Last time we spoke, encouraged you also to speak to ORC.
Yes.
Has that paid any dividends there? Or?
Yes, I've been in touch with one of the councillors who has put my questions to the CE at ORC.
Cool. Okay. So you're pursuing that channel as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Who else around the table has any questions or observations following Meredith's comments? Very good. Well, you've alluded that that's been really helpful. We will get a response from the staff about the legislative requirements around access to water and etc. And you and John, with the Guardians Lake Hawea, collaborating.
Yeah.
Great. That's excellent. Again, this is a forum not to get resolution issues, but to certainly to give the media here as well, to make sure that everyone in the community is cognizant of this. So thank you for raising that, Meredith.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Those are the two individuals, and really appreciate the time that they've taken with John and Meredith to speak with us. There's no one else that has registered to speak today. Normally the confirmation of our agenda is really straightforward, but item 2, which was the naming of a road within the North Lake Sticky Forest, has been withdrawn, the application has been withdrawn, so we'll remove this from the agenda. I assume that there will be no other changes to the agenda since it's reasonably done. So since it's reasonably procedural, I will move a resolution that the agenda be confirmed following the amendment and removal of item 2. Anyone else like to second that? John, all those in favour? Aye. So we'll carry that, so it's a confirmation of that agenda. Right. Finally, we just got, we had our last community board meeting on the 8th of May. The minutes have been circulated. So if you've got any changes or comments around the last community board meeting minutes? Again, okay, since it's procedural, I will move that the minutes from the 8th of May community board meeting be confirmed as true and correct without alteration. Anyone accepting that? Saw Linda there. And all those in favour? Aye. We'll carry that, so thank you, no amendment to the minutes. So we will be having one substantive item, and then we'll move straight into a workshop with Brent and Tony as well, so this, we'll just continue straight into that. So Don, are you so we've got Don Harrison from our Parks and Reserves team. Good to see you again, Don. Good. So we've got a couple of reserves to be listed. You've supplied us with a well-articulated paper. Anything you want to add, Don?
developments, and it can be a little bit confusing.
Yes, yes.
But hopefully, able to follow through.
We're able to follow the Pembroke Heights and Pembroke Terrace and Orchard Road are two quite distinct geographical locations. Anyone got questions or comments before we move any motions here?
Well, just a clarification on the Pembroke Terrace one. We know we've had a lot to do out there. So this is, I actually didn't realise this was coming out for testing, but the other part, well, it hasn't been tested yet. That's what we're working on right now. Is that right? With the playground and everything?
So the playground is on a piece of recreation reserve land, and that's already been approved to be vested. The physical vesting of it hasn't occurred because that hasn't been title issued. So this one is just for the local purpose reserve, which is to the north of the recreation reserve.
So that the title will be issued on this playground. The titles will be issued on this, so this is.
So this process, we get the approval for the land to be vested before any title is issued.
Okay.
As part of the title process, so they have to have that sign off.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that. What's happening there. Thank you.
Anyone else? So reasonably straightforward. Just one observation I've got, particularly with Pembroke Terrace, and it might be a little bit while you're in the planning team. When there is a local purpose reserve access, and it's to get people from A to B, and we've got really curly pathways through them, it doesn't make sense, you know what I'm saying? So that if we are wanting people to come in and get somewhere else, we should have straight lines, because we know what happens. We put the curly, and everyone who designed that think that's great, everyone just heads from A to B. So that's a small...
I might just make a comment on that. Is the previous plan here had steps on it, so I'm actually really grateful. They've extended the line to achieve a grade that is suitable for accessibility.
So, my one comment, unless topography requires it. And this is not a topographical map, so if the reason this is curling and whirling around is because of the topography and for gradient control, that's great. But otherwise, it does look on a very 2D map, it does look like someone just had a bit of fun.
we did note on site that it looks like a fantastic step forward.
Well, we had profiles, we could have done that, so thank you. So. Well, but we know what we see the desire lines, and when we do something like that, and someone wants to get from A to B, but if there's topography there that requires that, that's great. Other questions, comments? So I'm going to ask somebody else then to move that we vest. I'm going to see my notes here. Yep. So John, you'd like to move that we vest these two reserves, one at Pembroke Terrace and one at Pembroke Heights. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Barry's going to second that. So we'll move the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? So we carry that. So thank you, Don. Thanks for clarifying. 3D mapping is Don.
Yeah.
Final item on the agenda is the Chair's report, which is again really straightforward and mostly consists of community engagement over the last 6 weeks. Any comments or additional on that, John?
Just add to that, I think the different yesterday, and it was actually less than the last time in that area, so that's a positive. The negative is that it's a car out.
Yes, we saw that. Peugeot, white Peugeot. Subaru.
It's all Queensland, and council staff there, directly including. I've got photos, and I'm also correcting things, can't deal with them on another issue around there.
I also forgot to include, I went to Yanni.
Yes.
It was really amazing, and it had been gone for a long time. The first time that I'd gone, it was, yeah, I was really blown away with the capability and the attendance and talent that we had. So I was annoyed that I forgot it, but I looked back to meet
Right,
about it, just because of how well it went. Anyway.
Well,
Just a question on your report, Mr. Chair, number one, are you able to mention, you mentioned my support by a very difficult period in the school. Are you able to allude on what difficult period we're talking about, or was it more important?
Oh no, well it was well known that there was a suicide, a death by suicide there of a student. It's the first time that's happened at the school and affected school whānau, the teachers, the students dramatically. I reached out to support by going to the board meeting. We went to another board meeting on Tuesday to ensure that board meeting. I had a meeting with the principal and deputy chair of the board this afternoon at 1 o'clock. So sort of taking that on board is to provide support and just some feedback that had been shared with me and making sure that's being represented to the school as well. But they are making really great strides there. But it was a very, very traumatic incident that sort of led to this conversation.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Just a brief mention that the question was long, I thought that business and property owners were a good chat. We get a lot of that support, but I think we need all that. But the agreement was we will continue catching up on a regular basis and just keep the discussions going. So I think it was a valuable exercise.
Those notes were appreciated, Lyle. Thank you for summarising that conversation. Very good. Given it's my report, I will move that the contents of the chair's report be accepted. Anyone like to second that? Thanks, Cody. All those in favour?
Aye.
We'll carry that. So, very short meeting today. We'll conclude the meeting at 10:22. Now we've got a really good workshop with the